definitely are like trying to step outside.
Okay. But are they stepping outside in your backyard where they can use your services, or
Yeah,
are they
some of
trying
them
to do
are.
something else?
Well, yeah, it's definitely using my services, but also I'm finding it's more coaching versus matchmaking. Um,
Interesting.
but it's been busy. How about you? You're the one with 19 jobs. So tell me what's happening in your world.
Mm, let's see. I don't know. What's going on? Nothing really. I mean, I went to Vegas and
Yeah,
had my meeting with Barbara about the Nolan Miller story.
yeah, yeah,
A little bit of an issue with the two guys who quote unquote own the story. We'll see what happens.
mhm,
We've come to the conclusion that if they don't shit or get off the pot, they either get a shit or get off the
yeah,
pot.
yeah,
And if they don't come back with the things that we, need from them,
yeah,
then we're gonna walk. But
yeah, of
we're gonna do other productions together. So
course.
Nolan Miller's is kind of up in the air right now. I mean,
Okay.
we have the funding, we have the distribution, we have everything. We just need these two dudes to get on board,
Get it
and
together.
we need to come together, and it's not
Yeah.
that difficult to come together, and for some reason it seems to be for them. So we'll see what happens. I'm
Okay.
not worried about it.
I
It'll
understand.
it'll happen. But what else?
Well, we have our TV project that we had a great meeting about. So that's
Yes.
exciting. Mhm.
Well, Jada and I are fine tuning our TV show,
Yeah.
and you never know. I'm with the circle that I'm running in and the people that I'm working
Yeah.
with for the production stuff. We might be able to get this going fairly quickly. So that's good. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, let's just travel around the country
Let's
and
travel
shoot our
around the
TV show.
country. Yeah. I love that.
I
I
do
know
too.
that the show had some issues because there was a storm.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah, there's a hurricane in the south,
yeah.
and people are, struggling with that.
Yeah.
Um,
And you guys had
so
an earthquake this morning.
and we had an earthquake this morning. So yeah, this crazy weather. What are you gonna do? If it's the end, it's the end. I don't give two shits. Let's just have a
Oh,
good
all
time.
right.
Let's have a party.
Let's have a party.
Oh my
Hmm,
goodness.
okay.
So there's this funny thing that I saw. I'm on those Facebook groups where people are
Yeah.
dating and making sure that girls are watching out for girls.
Oh,
And
God.
I saw this one, and it was so fucking fucked up that I have to share it today. It's a dating thing that somebody did.
Okay.
So she says, I was talking to this man for about 2 weeks. He seemed like a nice person, and I thought we could be friends. One day, I got a voicemail where he was basically saying that he was having a hard time and no longer wanted to be part of this world. So I guess,
Oh, boy.
talking, unaliving himself. Okay, goes on
Oh,
to say, we talked about things he seemed to be doing better. We had planned to meet, and then I get a message from him pretending to be a friend of his to
mm.
inform me that he was no longer with us. That message was definitely hard for me to read. I
Yeah.
gave my condolences. He replied that he would be sending the information once the arrangements were made, but something didn't make sense. Fast forward 4 days later,
Oh, gosh.
and I come to find out it was all a lie. He was
Ooh.
alive. He was alive and well. All of this to say it's a whole new low of scumbag.
In
Lady,
dating.
please be careful. A simple "I'm not interested" would have done it for me instead of messing with someone's emotional and mental stability. Is that crazy or is that crazy?
I mean, I feel like that's a lot. That's very extreme. For me, from my perspective as a matchmaker, like just say, I'm just not into you. But to
It's
fake an
not that
entire
hard.
situation, um, is wild.
That is wild.
It's wild.
So I had to share that. I was like, "What the hell? What is this?" Someone pretended
Yeah.
to be dead.
Well,
Just
Okay.
so
okay.
Just to clarify, you had a caller asking, did you say he pretended to be dead to be away from her, or
yeah.
he pretended to be dead so he can get her?
No, he pretended
He
to be
pre
dead to be away from her, which is
Yeah, and
crazy.
they didn't even meet yet, and they were only texting each other, and they hadn't met, and he was like, "Oh, I wanna, like, off myself, wah, wah, wah," which, by the way, if somebody is in a bad place and you
100%.
really are suffering, there are people to help you, and we're
Yeah.
always here to lend an ear for someone who needs direction or help. If you need a suicide prevention number, great. I respect that. I do respect that. I don't respect somebody using that, which is a horrible thing to use to stop talking to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why did he send her the arrangements in 4 days then? That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. He said he was going to send her the arrangement in 4 days, but 4 days later, she found out he was alive and
Oh
walking
my God,
around.
that's wild. Wild, wild. Well, tell
People
me.
are resorting to bullshit. That's all I gotta
Well,
say.
I did a whole article on LinkedIn about, well, I mean, I do a lot, but the dating climate has changed drastically. Like I don't even know what people are doing and why they're lying and why they're. I will say, Christine, and then I want you to talk about our guest, but we've talked about the Are We Dating the Same Guy site, and I
Mhm.
have had women talk to me or reach out to me, and even clients of mine that look at that site,
Mhm.
and it's crazy because I do background
Mhm.
checks on anyone I send out with a client, but
Right?
it's crazy what women show me from that site that of course is not going to show up on a background check. You can't tell if
Yeah.
someone's a serial cheater. You can't tell if
Right.
someone has an STD. Like that's not going to show up in a background check.
Mhm.
Um
Mhm.
so I don't know, the dating pool is very tricky. Very, very tricky right now.
Well, I don't know where I don't want to say morals, morality. I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
I don't want to say that because I don't care about that. What I
Yeah.
do care about is how people treat other people, and
Absolutely.
for them to be pulling such BS about, the lies, the ghosting,
No.
it's just too much. It's too
Let's
much.
just say people, we're grown. Get it together. Like let's just like keep it
Mhm.
real. Isn't that's what
Mhm.
you used to say when we ended the show. Keep it real.
Yeah, we still do. I just add the shit now. Keep
Yes.
the shit real. Um, well, today we're actually going to talk about who did I marry and why is there so much drama? Well, obviously we're going to talk about how, if you get past the drama of the dating stage and then you get to marriage, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop because people can't stop helping being people. If you're fucked up and you hide it long enough to get married, which I'm very aware of people who
Yeah.
have held it long enough to get married because I've
Yeah.
made that mistake. People are just, some people are better at hiding it for longer than others.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
So today, We are talking about who did I marry? Why is there so much freaking drama? We have Rihanna back.
Yeah.
She's here to talk to us again. Riana Malia is an accomplished transformation coach trained in evolved
Neurological?
no, it's neurologistic
Oh, neuro.
programming.
Okay.
So, evolved neurologistic programming, quantum time release, and advanced trauma aware coaching, who empowers ambitious women to live a confident and trauma free life. She's got 20 years of coaching experience and has helped hundreds of women find true love, create personal and professional pivots, and overcome obstacles to help with their life, to live their best life. So let's bring on Rihanna and welcome her back to the show.
Welcome.
There
Hello,
she is.
ladies.
Hi.
Hello, beautiful. How are you doing?
I'm so happy to see you again.
We're happy to have you because you were a fantastic guest,
Yeah.
and we're happy to have you back.
Thank
So,
you. Okay, can I just say something funny? When Jada just was talking about the website, which I'd never even heard of, by the way, of Are We Dating the Same Man?
yeah.
And it's funny because often my clients will come to me and they'll say, I keep dating the same man. Like, what is wrong with me? I'm dating the same man over and over again. I keep dating my ex-husband in a different body. So when you said that, I was like, oh, there should be a website for that, for I keep dating the same man.
Right.
Oh,
Well,
that's smart.
that's actually smart. It's actually a Facebook group. It's called Are We Dating the Same Guy? And then they also have Are We Dating the Same Girl for guys. And it's all over the United States and all the different towns. And basically, it's if you start dating somebody or something bad happens, you post to see if that fool has been posted before and if they're married or in a relationship or have bad behavior. And if it's all clear, then you're like, whew, but a
Crazy.
lot of times it's not very clear. There are a lot of people out there fooling people left and right. It's terrible.
Yes, indeed.
It's wild to think that people even still make it to marriage.
Wow.
In this society today, in the way that people are dating, the way that their behavior is, and the way that they treat people, it's hard to imagine that people are still getting married.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wild.
Well, so here's the thing about that, right? And so I never thought I would get married again, mostly because I never thought I would meet my person or somebody that actually was aligned, right? But the other part of that is you were talking about, like, when you're fucked up and then you can hide it for so long and then you get to marriage. But some of that, like, there's all the things that we're clear about that we're really fucked up about. But then there's a lot of stuff that we're not really clear, because that's the stuff that, like, is hanging out in the unconscious mind.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about being able to tap into that is, whether you're wanting to get married, you are divorced, and you'd love to potentially find love again, is that when you can tap into those pieces, you get to unfuck the stuff that you don't even know that you don't know, which makes it so much better. And then you actually have a shot at a love that's worthy of you, where there's, all the peace and love and joy and delight that it should be.
So you're saying that you can help people get to a point where they're not making the same damn mistakes again, and then they're attracting different people?
100%.
Huh. Go figure.
Again, it's 95% of my clients, I would say, that come to me. So people come to me in every stage, but if they're post-divorce, right, it is one of the things that comes up almost immediately in every conversation is I find myself in the same position over and over again, the same relationship.
Yeah.
And when we kind of deep dive into that, because yes, a lot of women come to me because for that reason, right? They're post-divorce, they've had success in every area of their life except finding their person who's actually, like I said, worthy of them, aligned with them. Like, that piece that's like, nope, keep attracting these same people. And but the work that we do is obviously like it affects every area of your life and every deepens and enriches every relationship. So they might come for that, but then they get the whole thing, and they have better relationships with their kids and their siblings and their friends. And people will say, like, who are you? Like, I have a client in New York, and she's a very strong Italian Jewish New Yorker. And 4 weeks after we started working together, she called me and she's like, so my friends want to know what drugs I'm on, because they're like, I'm so much nicer and so much calmer, and I don't have this like fuck you world attitude anymore. And she's like, they literally think I'm unmedicated.
I love that.
Wow.
Well, she found her peace, and she probably found her peace within herself. So.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Because when you can go from being, so something I teach is called moving you out of effect and back into cause, right? So it's basically when you're in cause, you're fully in your power, you're in control, you're responsible for everything, whatever it is, right? So, but when we get pulled out of that and we're in effect, that's where we hear everything. This always happens to me. I'm always screwed. Everybody leaves me. So it's you. And then there's the reaction, right? So the ex says something and you're so triggered and you're so pulled out of your place of peace and clarity. And now you're at the mercy of, or at the effect of all this external stuff. And that one little thing is so life-changing, right? You don't need to be pulled into effect every single time. That's their shit. So
I love it.
all of those things put together, it gives you the space and the ability to actually find your greatest love and live your very best life without keeping these cycles that can never get broken unless you tap in a different way.
I love that.
I love that. I wonder so many times, especially in my space of matchmaking, when you have, and you, I'm sure you deal with clients that have so many questions and past traumas and all these different things. And so, of course, we talked about who did I marry? How do you tap into, especially going through a second marriage? I'm not, just to clarify, like I'm not going, but I'm saying for someone who's going through a second marriage and wanting to feel that safety and security and just making sure they've released the trauma from like a previous situation. So it's not a who did I marry? Like what types of practices do you share with your clients or suggestions that they should do before they get into another relationship?
So the framework for all the work that I do is a protocol that I created called the Quantum Pattern Protocol. And it's 3 stages. It's basically 9 steps, right? So it kind of starts with where any kind of growth or transformation starts in awareness. So we do a deep dive and we get really clear in that moment of where you've been, what you want. And then most importantly, using quantum linguistics and Christine, I'm just going to tell you, it's neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. You might have a typo on your thingy, honey.
I was like, what is this?
What is that word? It's a lot of words, but
well, it's a big word for me. So
you did a good job. So we dive in, and then, but in that deep dive session, we get to the underneath piece. And we do that by, I ask a question over and over and over again. So when we figure out what the problem is, then I'll continue to ask, how is that a problem? Well, it makes me sad. Well, when you're sad, how is that a problem? Well, then I feel depressed and I don't do what I want to do. Well, how is that a problem? So we get all the way to the end of that. Sometimes I ask 5 times or 25 times. And at the end of that, we get to the thing that's the root, which is an un or a less. I'm unworthy, I'm unloved, I am powerless, I am fill in the blank, right? Which now we have a foundation to do the work. So we get the awareness, we get really clear on the core stories that people are really committed to, whether they're conscious of it or not, that keep them stuck and in those same patterns. And then we get ready and we get to kind of dive in, right? So then the next piece is we do a full dysfunction detox. So we look at the behaviors and the strategies in the old programming. And then we are able to actually clear all of that. And then we do a quantum time release, which is the content-free, most peaceful, painless, joyous, loving way. And we release however many years old you are. I'm 48. So for me, it's 48 years of the built up negative charge of anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame and all the limiting beliefs and decisions that come along with all the traumas that we've experienced: divorce, childhood trauma, abuse, loss, all the things that we carry. And two things about that is, number one, it's all stored at a cellular level, right? People think about memory as being in the brain, but it's cellular. And when it's not released properly, we see cycles that never get broken, patterns that go on for generations, illness, anxiety, depression, autoimmune disorders, all of that manifests because it's stored here and we're carrying it. So we get to release that, but without going back into any of the trauma that caused the pain in the first place. So that's what's so magical about this work. It is not like, therapy. And don't get me wrong, all therapy is amazing. I mean, reading books is fantastic. It all is super beneficial and all has value, right? Talking to our girlfriend
with the right one for you.
Right.
For sure. But the thing is, what I know to be true, not just because of the hundreds of women that I've worked with in this process, but for my own self after my divorce, right? I was pissed off and resentful and sad and scared and all the things. And I did all the things I was told to do, right? I talked about it with my girlfriends. I talked about it in therapy. I read all the books. I gave it time. I did the courses, which again, great. But that temporary resolution and peace goes away. And then you find yourself having that full emotional, mental relapse, which just causes you more time, more money, more energy. But really, it costs you your faith in yourself, faith in your future, faith in, will I ever be happy again? So all of that stuff we get to address, right? So we get to actually do the healing in this process versus just continuing to talk about it and staying in the drama of the story. And then here's where it gets really important, right? Because then awareness and clarity is great. All of that is great. But unless you replace the behavior with new neurology, new strategy, new behavior, then you're just stuck in a loop of more of the same, which is, now I know this, what the hell do I do with it? So then it's almost more depressing because you have the knowledge, but you don't have the skills. So then now we actually create new skills, new behavior, new neurology. And then we do a really cool thing where we do a quantum goal setting process at the end, where after we've released all of this stuff and now you're like clean slate, open, ready to receive what's meant for you, we reverse engineer some goals. So we'll look at love, professional, like whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is. We reverse engineer it and then we install it on your timeline, which activates and ignites that reticular activating system in the brain. So we go from A to Z. So it's fully like complete. And in those stages, there's all kinds of work with you. And Jada, you asked specifically like an example. So let me tell you one of my favorite things that I do with my clients. So one of the things we talk about is there are 3 requisites for change, for lasting transformation, right? One is you got to clean up the past. So we do that in QTR, and some forgiveness work and alchemical forgiveness work and just amazing stuff. And then you have to get crystal clear on exactly what you want. And then lastly, you have to then take inspired action to move forward always toward the life that you want, right? We're not looking at all of that, thinking about all that stuff we don't want. So one of my favorite sessions is where we create what I call your menu. So we do a values elicitation. So let's get really clear on the things that are most important to you. And then we reorder them. So we look at the top 7, sometimes 10. That becomes a benchmark. Then we create a non-negotiables list and a desires list because they're different. Right?
Yeah.
So here's our non-negotiable stuff. Here's our desire stuff. So now you have clarity about what's important to you and what you want and what are your non-negotiables, right? So for me, when I was looking for my husband, I was like, I'm not driving over a bridge, and he has to have kids, so he knows how to love children, but he can't have kids younger than Maddie because when they're gone off to college, I'm going to the beach. Like I had a lot of things that I got really clear about. So then that's your menu, right? So we create that together. And now you have, because so many of my clients will say to me, I thought I knew, I thought my marriage or my relationship was the thing. And now I don't trust myself to make decisions. I don't know what the hell is the right thing or the wrong thing. So by creating their menu, if they're feeling uncertain, it's really simple. Does this person line up with your values? Is there anything on the non-negotiable list that's literally, that's a non-negotiable? And how are they lining up with the desires? So it gives you the ability to make a very clean yes and clean no decision, and staying out of the decision fatigue of not knowing and paralysis of maybe, and that's for anything in life, right?
I love that.
Yeah. There's a lot of
So
questions that
it's so
come in.
many. So Misty asked the first one. She said, this process that you're talking about, how long does it typically take for someone? And obviously it's probably different for everyone, but what's your basic, answer for that?
Yes. So I love this question because I call it quantum healing because, of course, it's that step-by-step process that I use to initiate healing and transformation and growth for my clients.
Mm-hmm.
But on average, it's about 8 to 10 times faster than any other modality in the world. So rather than spending years, right, just continuing to talk about it, my clients, I say 8 to 10 weeks. So it's very fast.
Ooh, that's amazing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's great.
That actually got me all ignited. That's actually good because I think that's what I didn't like about therapy, was like fucking talking about it over and over and dragging it out. No decision making, no things to do or problem, how to solve or what to do. That traditional type of therapy does not work for me. I have to have actionable things that make my brain work towards something.
And make your brain work differently, right? So that's the other piece of this, is that
it's all about shifting your mindset, is what it sounds like shifting your mindset to focus on different behaviors is kind of what I feel your work is.
So there's definitely a mindset shift, but it's also tapping into the unconscious mind to be able to clear out all that old stuff and actually create new neural pathways and install new neurology that's actually aligned with the most empowered version of you, so that you get to be the best mama, sister, future love of someone's life, CEO, whatever it is. You get to step into highest and best. So it's not just, so the mindset piece is critical, but it's all those other components that actually make it real, so that you actually get to live the life that you're meant to live instead of just wishing for it. Because everybody gets stuck in awareness, clarity, and then just thinking like the mindset piece is enough. You got to add this other piece in. And that's where being able to tap into the other 90% of you, your unconscious mind, that's where the magic happens. And that's why we get to do it so gently and so quickly.
I love that. So Mickey says, do you ever find people who don't realize that they're repeating patterns? And has there ever been someone who wanted to stay in their pattern for whatever reason?
Brilliant question, Mickey. Yes. I mean, oftentimes after that very first session, it's super clear. Like they're like, yes, okay, this is what I do. This is because we have a strategy for everything. We have a strategy for stuff that's really makes us successful and stuff that's really limiting and dysfunctional, right? So whether it's we have a strategy for shopping, we have a strategy for sex, we have a strategy for illness, we have a strategy for, it's how we know what to do. And so sometimes there are people that they've never identified the pattern, or they've never been able to step back and look at it from a bit of a different perspective to actually be able to realize it.
Because some just don't know. Yeah.
Totally. Right. And so they don't even have that first awareness piece. And the second part of your question, this is such a huge part of life and the work that I do. So asking, has anyone wanted to stay in their pattern for whatever reason? Yes, it's called secondary gain. And it is an unconscious process, but it's where the gain of staying in the problem outweighs the gain of leaving it, right? Outweighs getting rid of the pain. So it's doing something for you. It's serving something for you. Sometimes it can be as simple as they get attention for something but there's secondary gain is 99% unconscious. It's people aren't aware of that. So we take the invisible and we make it visible so that they then get to powerfully break that pattern.
Anastasia said, would this process help you find the path you are meant to be on?
100%.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
So
agreed.
Again, so many people will come to me and they're like, I was a wife, I was a mama, I did I did this career. I don't know who I am. I don't know what the hell my purpose is. I don't know what to do next. So same thing, whether you're coming because you want to heal from divorce trauma, or you're coming because you know that there's just something more meant for you in your life, we still use the same framework. We still do all the same things. It's applicable to every place, every area of life. Because really, when we're talking about a breakthrough, somebody will say, I want a breakthrough in love. It's really a breakthrough with relationship with self first. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely.
Great. Let's talk about country corners real quick, and then we'll go to the who did I marry? How does one know what their values even are?
So that is what we do in a values elicitation. So we have a conversation, and as you're talking, I'm creating a spreadsheet, and you're talking about all kinds of things. A lot of those things will get moved into the desires list or the non-negotiable list because they're not really values, but we do that together so that you're then crystal clear on the things that are at the core of who you are, the most important, so that you get to make aligned decisions with that. Because when we don't make values driven decisions, we are constantly in that yucky place of decision fatigue, of not knowing.
I love that. So let's go to who did I marry, and why is there so much drama? Well, I know who I married, and I know why there was so much drama. He was a drama queen. He quite enjoyed drama, and he still can't get past it. But I'd like to hear what this topic means to you.
So this is why the divorce rate is what it is. This exact reason. So I want you to imagine that, you're at Starbucks and you're sitting there doing your thing, and somebody sits down, you start talking, and you're like, oh, this person is fabulous. And then, you're connected and you go out and whatever. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is the best person ever. I love you. And they're like, you're the best person ever. I love you too. Great. Let's be together. So starts off fabulously. So, but then here's the thing. We all have our baggage that we carry, right? So if you look in your baggage and, you're like, well, there's skeletons in the closet. There's, a lot of wine bottles in there. There's this trauma from when I was in 6th grade and I was the only girl not invited to the after school party at the mean girl's house. And I sat by myself and I cried and I felt so alone. And then there's my failed marriage and a failed business. And so we have all this stuff we carry around with us. But we meet this fabulous person and they look at us and they say, gosh, that looks heavy. Let me carry that for you for a little while. Just let me give you a break. So we take our bag of shit and we give it to them. And then guess what happens? Then they start projecting back to us all of our unresolved stuff. And that's when we go, you are not the person I fell in love with. You are not the person I married. Right, because perception is projection, and they are projecting back to us all of our unresolved stuff. And the reason there's so much drama, and this again applies to everything, marriage, friendships, whatever, is that the unconscious mind has to recreate traumatic situations to play out because its main goal always is resolution. Yeah. So if there is drama, if there is these patterns where this stuff keeps showing up, there are unresolved traumas and there are needs that are not getting met, that are core needs. So it is why that question of who did I marry? You're not the person I married, is because we gave them all that stuff. They're projecting it back to us. Totally unresolved trauma and crap that we never dealt with and released. And then we wonder why we can't stand that person because they're just projecting all of our unresolved shit to us. And that's in the simplest form, at the core of that's exactly what happens.
I have to say, I am texting back and forth with a client of mine, and he's listening to the show. And
is he cute? No.
But his full transparency is this more of something that happens with women because it's very uncomfortable not to say is this happening with women, but it's uncomfortable, I think, for a lot of men to reach out for coaching, reach out for help, reach out and say, hey, this may be what I'm going through. What does that look like? So it, in a nutshell, and I just told him that I was going to say this. So I'm hoping that he's not bothered. But in a
Well,
nutshell,
you're not saying his name.
no, I'm not saying his name. But
No,
in a
it's all
nutshell, it's like, is this work that's geared more towards women, or are there men that also have certain things that they could utilize your services, and what would that look like?
men carry luggage too.
Yeah. Men also don't like to hear their faults and that they need coaching and all of these things. Like, that's difficult
Right.
for a man to hear versus a woman.
Right.
Yeah. So this is human work. So this
Mhm.
is, if you've been on this planet longer than 15 minutes, work,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? I mean,
Mhm.
because the truth is, I don't care who you are, where you are, what gender you are.
Yeah.
This is universal. This is the way that the human brain is designed.
Well, everybody's got trauma. Everybody's got something that affected them in some way in their life, and they've packed it in a bag and, shoved it away and not wanted to
Sure.
deal with it. And then it carries into, like you said, Rihanna, handing it to the person and said,
Right.
"No, here, honey, maybe unpack my bag for me instead of carry it, like a man would."
But I also feel like there is a lot to be said for men, just in a sense of, I think they carry a lot of, I have to protect, I have to provide, I have to be this person, and I can't be the weaker
Mhm.
person in the relationship. So then when they feel internally or a certain sense of I'm not enough because of XYZ, it's difficult for them. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I am not a therapist, please, people that are listening, I don't know. But I think that it's difficult for them to say, like, I need to figure this out. I need help in figuring it out. Like, I don't know. I just think it's different for men than it is for women. And this exchange with my client, and I know you're listening and I'm so sorry, but I just told you that I was going to put you on blast. So
I think it's great.
I'm just curious as to your thoughts on that.
I think you're 100% right. And I'll tell you, when I met my husband, that is 1,000 million %. So he had a horrible divorce, right? A super painful, destroyed him. And then what did he did? He worked and he took care of the kids, right? So he kept the children in the house, and he just was all in. He coached every one of their sports. He did all those things. And he did some therapy to get through some of that massive rage and pain. But he is the provider and the protector. And when we met, he was not used to communicating because his ex-wife had no interest in his thoughts, feelings, wishes, or desires. So it was foreign to him when but I want to know how you feel. I want to know what this is like for you. Like, what do you want? He'd never been asked those questions before. So there had to be some teaching, some learning how to communicate together. But I 100% agree with you, Jada, that it is much harder for men. And here's how I'd love to reframe it, because that initial instinct of like, I should have it all figured out because I'm the man and I'm the protector and I'm the provider. What if you reframed it that, like, I want to be the best man, protector, provider. And in order to do that, I got to get rid of all this old shit, all of these limiting decisions, most of which are made between the ages of 0 and 7, that are still running your operating system. And those old limiting beliefs, the I'm not enough piece, which is so common for men that they never will admit, is such a fear. And it is so limiting. And to be able to get to step into the man that you know that you are and that you were meant to be the best father, husband, provider, protector, rock star, banker, whatever it is, like, that's powerful.
Yeah.
It's not a weakness.
It's not. I was going to say, I personally think that it's a strength when a man says, okay, I need to figure this out. I need to work on this. Listen, I think in a marriage, we all come as two completely different people. And yes, the man carries certain things that the woman doesn't. The woman carries certain things that the man doesn't. We never 100% completely mesh.
Yeah.
And when we go off and we get a divorce, doesn't matter if he cheated, she cheated, she spent too much money, he didn't spend any money, whatever the cause and effect, it's still there. And
Mhm.
what a lot of, I think, men don't want to think about, they think, oh, well, she did this or she did that, or this happened and that happened. And well, my ex is never going to admit that he cheated. He
Well,
never has. But
do they ever?
right, it's right there. I'm not fucking blind or mental. But I am mental, but not that mental. But the thing is that we still are the same people and we still carry that shit into other relationships. So
Sure.
when men don't heal and men don't figure out what they need to do to heal and to be the better version of themselves that they already are, then they're not leading with the right
Yeah.
foot, and
Yeah.
they're not going into a relationship. They're going into a relationship thinking, well, that other person's not here, so this is going to be a better deal. But then the same thing that affected them in the last marriage is going to affect them in the next relationship, because we're still women, they're still men, and there's still issues.
Mm.
And they haven't cleaned up the pattern, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They haven't cleaned up the pattern. So, wherever I go, there I am, right? What's the common denominator in all the relationships? Me. So one of the things that I think is helpful, so anytime a client is going to come work with me, the first thing I do is send them something called a representation systems test. And it's 5 questions. Under each question, there's 4 statements. You give it a number, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 being the one that sounds the most like you, then 3, then 2, then 1. What that tells me, and then you take that and you put it on this graph and you fill it all in, and there's 4 letters, right? A, V, K, A, D. It tells me how you process communication in your model of the world, if you're auditory, visual, kinesthetic, or auditory digital. What that also tells me is certain words and predicates that will allow me to speak to you in a way that communication becomes seamless. So, for instance, knowing that about somebody and being able to address that in a way that lets me talk to them differently. So I might say to your client, like, or whoever, like, that piece about, like, I need to fix this is so jarring. So how about just get curious, like play a game, play the game of, you're going to play the biggest game of your life for your life and step into that highest and best man that you were meant to be. Right.
Right. Well, maybe men can think about it in a way that appeals to them. They love a car. They do research on the car. They're going to buy one. They're going to do research. They're going to figure out the best gas mileage, the best tires, the best look, colors, everything. Does this engine make a big roar, or is it like silent? And it's like, maybe they can apply that to themselves. Be curious about what revs them, kick the tires inside, what colors work for you. And you know what I mean? So maybe they can adapt it to, maybe they love basketball and they got to go play and practice basketball all the time. Well, your life is like a car or like basketball or whatever. You can't be the best at it if you're not working on you to make you the best. You can't shoot the 3-pointer if you're not practicing it.
And that's one of the biggest things of changing. I can teach you in 15 minutes how to completely change your world.
Ooh, I love that.
I love that.
So,
do you work with a lot of male clients?
I don't.
You should.
I largely work with women. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't. It just has to be fully aligned because it's such an energetic exchange, right?
Absolutely.
This isn't a course or a module that I send you and then you go. So this is you and me in the trenches for 8 to 10 weeks, co-creating your life and like creating an entirely new present and an entirely new future. So not to say that I wouldn't or haven't. It's just typically most of my clients are women.
Yeah.
But if it's the right fit, like if I'm the right fit for him and vice versa, 100%. Everyone should do this work.
I do want to get to Country Corners because that's last question before we run out of time. They just said, how do we even remember things that are set in us from young ages? Like, I think I know what they mean, but I'd like to hear what you.
So again, this is what makes this work so magical. So when we do the quantum time release process, so when I say it's a completely unconscious process, you're not unconscious. Your eyes are closed and you're very relaxed and you're listening to my instructions and you're letting your imagination just kind of go. But I'm asking questions and your unconscious gives us the answers. We are not looking for something you remember. In fact, quite the opposite. And I can tell when people start to look for something that makes sense that they can try to remember that made them sad, it defeats the purpose. We are looking for the root cause. And what I ask is, if your unconscious mind were to know, and it does, the root cause of fear, would it be, so that it can be released, effortlessly and joyfully, would it be before, during, or after your birth, if you were to know? And it's an instant answer. And if it's before, I ask, was it at the time of conception, in the womb, or before? If it was in the womb, I ask for the trimester. If it was before, I ask if it was a past life or past generation and how many. Now, where we get into trouble is where if the answer is after. And then I ask, what age were you between 0 and 7? And we get a number. And then that's the hardest part because the conscious mind wants to come and take over and try to find that event to remember. We're not looking for an event. The root cause of any of those negative emotions is nothing you have conscious memory of. That's why this is a painless process. We're not going back to something you remember that was traumatic or sad or made you angry or had shame. We get to go in, release it, get the learnings, transmute it, reinstall new behavior with that relationship without going back into a painful memory. So you don't have to. In fact, I don't want you to. I won't let you.
Wow. I love that. That kind of reminds me a little of something. I'll just say it quickly. The other day, I had a friend who's moving and she came by to show me her new kitten. And I was like hanging out with her and she's looking at all my books. I have a lot of books everywhere. And she was looking and she's like, oh, there's a woman's journal. Do you fill it out? Do you write in it? And I was like, I don't even think I wrote in that. So I pull it down and I look and I realized I'm writing stories from my kids' youth. And in there, the last thing I have in there is that I woke up from a really scary dream. And my husband at the time said, write it down. So I wrote it in that journal and put it away. I don't remember that dream, but I was reading it and I was reading it out loud to my friend. And my God, that was a scary fucking dream. But the entire time I'm reading it, every single thing that was happening in the dream, I was like, oh, that pertains to that in my life. Oh, that pertains to that in my life. And it's funny how the subconscious grabs onto those things and either puts them in your actionable things that you do during a day, how you treat somebody, what you're dreaming about, and it's wild how one dream summed up some crazy shit from my life into one thing. And it's interesting when I dreamed it was during some times that were not so great with my husband. So, that's wild. And I never thought the value of writing that shit down would help, but it does.
So here's the double-edged sword of that, though, because while that you can look at that now and you're like, God, that makes so much sense. So there's some like putting some pieces together. But on the flip side of that, you didn't remember that, but you read it and it was fully activating. And it took you back energetically and emotionally. And the brain doesn't know the difference between something that's happening or something that we visualize with feeling. Back to your basketball point, right?
Yeah. It was interesting though, because I had no emotion in anything towards it anymore. I am so much has changed for me that I wasn't experiencing that anymore. I was like, oh, that part of the dream with my mom. It's just, it's telling of when my mother never protected me from all the things that she already knew. And in the dream, she was like, I know there's a bad man in that house. And she closes the door and locks me in the house with him. And she's like, it was like, ah! And I realized reading that, I was like, that's the time when I found out my mom knew, and my mom knew and didn't protect me. So it was really interesting to be able to go back in a space where I'm much more healed than I ever was.
Yes.
To be able to go, things really click in. Your subconscious does so much.
Totally.
We are so over time.
We are. I'm so sorry. So
can I just say one thing to to all the fabulous listeners? I just want to say, like, I want my work in the world is to make sure that everyone that I can touch to live your very best life is a thing. So I would love to give you,
love that.
I have a couple of gifts that I would love to give the audience. And I also want to offer a call. Like I would.
Oh, great.
Love that.
Somebody wants to have a conversation and just see if we can shift and move you in the direction. Right.
Nice. So reach out to us and we will connect you to Riana. You all know how to reach us. You can email us at 50shadesofbullshit@gmail.com, and you spell FIFTY out and you spell SHYT for the shit because of Gmail. But 50shadesofbullshit@gmail.com. Please reach out. We'll connect you with Riana, or you can go to her website. And we will have that in the show notes. So, Riana, thank you for being here. I'm sorry, Rebel, we went over. But we'll be back same time, same place next week. And until then, let's keep this shit real. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends, like and follow us on Instagram at 50shades_of_bullshit and Facebook at 50 Shades of Bullshit. Thanks so much for listening, and we really hope to see you again next week.